Good evening to everyone. Welcome back to the bi-weekly update, what is happening in Myanmar. I am Sciortino, head of SEA Junction, a public venue in Bangkok. And every 2 weeks, we have this event to see what is happening in Myanmar and not to lose sight of the tragedy of a country which is still dealing with an still failed coup, not successful coup, but still with enormous consequences on the health and the well-being of the people of Myanmar. We are pleased to have again Khin, a well-known activist and peace and security expert, as well as woman activist and human rights activist, so very well known and involved at the global as well as the local level. So she will give an update of what is happening in the last 2 weeks and what are the main events in the future. Please, Khin.
Thank you so much, Leah. Thanks to all of you again for joining this bi-weekly update. So today, this is going to be the sort of like a final for the first round of my update to you joining the SEA Junction. So I just also want to express my special appreciation to Leah from SEA Junction for supporting creating such space to keep updating those who are concerned with and are interested in knowing of what's happening in Myanmar. So I really appreciate this space and opportunity to be able to have a regular update and sharing with you. So today I will give my time dedicate to also sharing with you the situation of the LGBTI activists. But before that, just to give you overview. So like Leah again said it in her introduction, now we are getting close to 9 months of the attempted coup. This military, there is no sign of them stopping of what they're doing, but also they come to be more and more desperate. They come to be much more weaker. And of course, in their desperate response, we see more of the violence, more of the violent response to the people. That's what we're seeing. But also it shows how this Myanmar military are now really, coming to that moment that they probably didn't even have any imagination at all that they will get to. And I think they were pretty confident. They were pretty confident that they will be able to take control over the country when they did this coup attempt. But it's now very clear that they are not able to do it. So from my last update to now, there are 28 more, at least 28 more people being killed. So the death toll now amounts to 1,167, and that number can still be less than the actual number because there are some areas it's hard to get the verification, and those who are doing the documentation of these human rights violations and atrocities, such as particularly the due credit to the Assistant Association for Political Prisoner. We are all using their documentation, and AAPP is a long-term human rights documentation organization comprised of the former political prisoners since the 1988 generation. So these are well experienced ones. And of course, they are also under attack at this point, just like the other civil society organizations. So it's very challenging, and yet they're doing a tremendous job documenting as much as they could. So now the number has reached to 1,167, and that's the death that who were murdered. But then there are 8,890 total who were arrested. So that's more than 600 from the last 2 weeks that I have actually updated you. So that's a lot more are being arrested and are in detention. And as I have shared with you earlier, the torture is a routine. And those who were released from the detention, they have all expressed, shared and spoke out of like the torture that they had to endure with, and or they witnessed their other fellow colleagues had to go through. So it's very serious. Many of them, again, I will say that we don't know where they are. The family members don't have access to. So it's very serious. Only those like who finally got to the prisons, they more or less can have a bit of the less severity of the torture, or like that they can have like a family members access. But there were cases that I think I forgot to update you, those who, including the family members who went to see their loved ones or their friends in detention or in prison, sorry, not in detention, in prison, they were actually arrested after they paid the visit. So people are scared to go and pay the visit to the prison. So that's another serious situation. But also for now, 7,219 are in detention. 348 have been sentenced to prison in person. I think more about 180 or so were sentenced, more than 100 were sentenced in absentia. 26 out of 348 who've been sentenced in person. Those 26 were sentenced to death, and including 2 children under 18. Also, in the last 2 weeks, there are more children are being shot and killed. Like when they were just a couple of days ago, there was a case when they entered, they were arresting, shooting his father, but then the boy was also shot and he's dead. So these cases continue, yeah. But now I want to bring your attention to the situation of the LGBTIQ activists, and I want to dedicate their courage. As you know, for the LGBTIQ persons, the society at large have a different discriminations, violence, and very little recognition of how much they contribute to the society. And also when it comes to the human rights advocacy and like a human rights promotion, sometimes they are thought they only work on their rights, like only working for the LGBTIQ rights. That's how sometimes even the perception from the general human rights community, sometimes they are thought like that. But that is not the case. And they do all they can. And of course, not only in Myanmar, but here I want to share with you the case of those who are in Myanmar. LGBTIQ persons have been very active since the beginning of the coup. They've been at the forefront, and yes, they are equally persecuted. So the first photo I want to show you is Tawai 2, 19-year-old from Moderator University in Mon State, and he was shot in the head and killed while he was at in front of the still protesting. That was back in March. He's a member of the dance club in university, in the Moderator University. The next one that I want to introduce you is Toto, or her name is Tozin, but known as Toto. So he's a makeup artist and also a transgender person. And so she was shot dead on the night of the 5th June, and that is in Mandalay. And then her family didn't get the body back. Basically, she was buried right away by the military in the next morning. The next one that I would like to introduce you is Mien Mien also known as Ma Popo Han, and she's 72 And she's 22-year-old LGBTIQ makeup artist from Shuibo in Upper Myanmar, where a lot of the intense military attacks are happening in the last couple of months, 3-4 months. And she was found dead on September 9 after missing for 3 days. Then I want to introduce you to another LGBTI transgender activist, Susha Shenzhang. She was just arrested on October 2, so just 10 days ago. And now the Weihang, they arrested her. One of the method is these military people, they use their civilian cars, and then they chase down on the activist, like those on the motorbike. They are hit. The car crashed into the motorbike just in order to arrest. So her motorbike was crashed by that military people's car, and she's in detention. And I'm getting reports that she's being tortured severely. Now the next one I want to introduce is Khin. She's an anti-coup protester also from Rangoon, and she was arrested on April 24 for uploading a photo of her participating in the Blue Shirt campaign, which is a Blue Shirt campaign is dedicated to the political prisoners, calling for the release of the political prisoners. And that's been going on for many years in Myanmar. So Khin was brutally beaten and also injured. And also she was forced to change to the men's clothing. So that's a few of the photos that I was able to collect to share with you. But I want to talk about their situation right now. About at least 74 LGBTIQ activists have been arrested, and then 65 remain in detention. And there were actually 12 who were actually, they were like among those who were killed. And then the torture that they receive in the detention is severe and different. Like they are subjected to like sexual assault because of their visible identity as transgender or LGBTIQ. So the sexual harassment or assault during the detention, including in the police custody before they were transferred to the military intelligence. It's been very severe. So like, for example, like there was a case like one 50-year-old transgender woman when she was tortured, like, she was like really forced, not only like, like with the, like, what do you call, like, well, I mean, she was like, her nipples were burned. Her nipples were burned with the cigarettes. And also like, they inserted a bottle, to the private parts. So things like that. It's very, very, very severe. So I just want to say that, like, for these courageous, brave activists, because of their gender identity, the torture treatment that the torture ill treatment that they receive is also quite different. I just want to share with you about their courage and also their situation. Yeah. So now I want to move on to the next subject. I shared with you before also that like more and more family members of the activists or those CDM people who've been in hiding are being severely subjected, right? There are a lot more cases in the last 2 weeks. And now they are also targeting those family members of the soldiers who defected to the people side. And that was just 2 days ago, there was a case of a surgeon who joined the People's Movement. His 60-year-old mother and 2 sisters with the disabilities, and his 10-year-old niece, and also a niece who is a university student, all together were arrested. and it's because he joined the movement. So this is a part of the military try to, stop these soldiers and police joining the movement. And yet, in the last 2 weeks, there are more. Both the police and soldiers are joining, actually. Not a large number, but they are joining already existed 2,000 soldiers, and there were like about 3,000 police already joining the CDM since the early months of the Spring Revolution. And the military issue a directive saying that they will take action against any organizations who will accept the deserters from the military. So that's also another warning and threat to any others who might be helping these soldiers, leaving from the military. So that's another update I want to share. And then the next update is also, like I shared with you last time, the People's Defense Forces are in many different parts of the country and very active, and also coordinating from, a place from like a different geographical location that they are cooperating among themselves. And they continue to be doing that. But very worrying sign is, I don't know if you remember, I shared with you the western, central, and northern part of Myanmar. That's where the Khin state and like Sagaing, Magui, the central part, and then the Khin state in the east, and then the Khin state in the west. So, but these are the areas where the military is severely, like really deliberately targeting and attacking. And in the last week, there are more troops movement into those areas, including the air, ground, and also air. So now we are approaching to what we call in Myanmar is the dry season, because the rainy season is ending. Usually in our country's history, it is when the military start attacking to the ethnic armed organizations, ethnic revolutionary armies. That's where they start their military operations. By like end of September, October is the time when the monsoon season ends. That's when they start. So with those heavy machines, more troops, and also air moving into the central and northern and western, that's already telling that we can anticipate more of the severe attacks to those areas. What is very worrying is that it's difficult to bring the humanitarian assistance to those areas because they are very far remote, quite far from the big cities and like that. And also like unless you pass through the military strongholds areas, it's really difficult to get the assistance to those people in central areas. So it's another my very worry, because the food shortage has come to be more and more severe. The UN said like 3 million, but I think it's I mean, like our country, we are our soil is good, right? So people can kind of live on, from the nature, to some extent. But of course, that is not a sustainable way, and that is not also going to be easy, because people are on the constant move and run. The whole villages are being had to leave on the run, where the military will be chasing them behind. So how far can they go, and how far, so the death toll that I have presented you is those who were shot and killed by the military. But then I'm not even telling you the civilians, all the activists who had to run into the forest, jungles, in the different mobile, internally displaced areas, who died, the mothers, children, the elderlies, civilians who just died from the help that they could have been saved easily, yeah, but because there were nothing to live on. So I think that's a very severe situation that I'm really very, very worried. Yes, the peaceful protests continue every day, and then now there are also other campaigns are being initiated. For example, there is a campaign called Blood Money Campaign. So this blood money campaign that I want to share with you today is it is initiated by a group of activists, young activists who are from the labor unions, student unions, from the civic, peace, education, research, so quite a diverse group of activists come together, and they have designed, developed, and they have been reaching out to the international diaspora communities as well, and they will be launching a global day of the blood money campaign by end of this month. So I would like for you to look out for that campaign. I'll drop you links that you can look at, but you can even look at searching blood money campaign. But so what their aim, their objective is that they want to regain the power in the hands of the people. They want the power back to the people, and also they want to have a complete removal of this military from the politics, and also they want to have a complete eradication of the fascism on Myanmar land. Their demands, they are targeting primarily the oil and gas giants, Chevron and Total. So Chevron and Total seems to be their first target. I'm sure they will have other targets too. But their demand is on these oil giants are to stop all the revenue flow from Chevron and Total, all of these international companies, to the military, the illegitimate military junta, and also freeze all the payments designated for Myanmar until the democracy is restored in Myanmar. And they want all the payments kept in escrow account. And they also want to see that to implement the sanctions against the Myanmar oil and gas enterprise, which is actually a state-owned enterprise. State-owned enterprise, SOE, supposed to be the people-owned, government-owned, and yet, of course, that was under the previous military regime where they cash out billions of dollars for their personal wealth. So even the Myanmar was open for the last decade to the world, these such lucrative businesses like the oil and gas, or the gems, like ruby and jade and gold and timber, these all are left in hands of the military and their cronies. So that even though MOGE should be the government, like a state-owned enterprise under the government control, but it was not. So now these young activists are targeting, calling on the oil giants like Chevron and Total to stop all the payments, but keep those money in escrow account for their future when the democracy is restored. So that is I want to share with you as one key point for today. But then I think that my last update that I want to share with you is there will be a 3-day ASEAN People Forum, ASEAN Civil Society Conference 2021 happening starting on the 15th, in next 2 days. So October 15, 16, and 17. You can also search for, and if you want to join, you can register. There will be we will be addressing the people situation across the ASEAN countries in the region, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos. So we will be we will be talking about all of the problems that the people of ASEAN are facing. But there will also be one panel dedicated to Myanmar situation, as Myanmar continue to be a #1 problem child in the region. So many things are also, many discussions are happening within the ASEAN. Of course, as you all know, as you know well, the ASEAN 5-point consensus that was agreed by the murderous regime leader May Alai during the ASEAN leaders meeting on April 24 cannot be implemented in any way. The ASEAN Special Envoy, the Foreign Minister #2 of Brunei, he still cannot have access to the country. Just in the last couple of days, there were a lot of talk about whether he will be in Myanmar or he canceled Myanmar. There are a couple of different informations being spread, and people saw his statement saying that that doesn't really explicitly indicate whether he will have a chance to go into the country or he has canceled or not. We don't know, but just from that, all of that, my observation is that he is still unable to get into the country if he will not agree to the military stance. So what could be the military junta's stance will be something like very, very highly likely is if he wants to meet with Aung San Suu Kyi, the military will not allow that. The military didn't even allow the Chinese special envoy who came. I forgot when though, last month or in August. And he was not able to meet with, last month, he was not able to meet with Aung San Suu Kyi either. So the very 5 points, the one is for the special envoy to engage with all the stakeholders, right? With all the parties. So if he is not able to meet with the detained leaders of the country, what's the point of him going in? And I think he knows that, and he should know, of course, if he goes in without, able to meet with the leaders of the people who are in revolution against this moderate military, he's in trouble. So I don't know where this is going to go, but we will be discussing all of these issues also in the upcoming ASEAN People Forum. But I think it's very important that, again, I keep sending this message through different channels, including through the media, is that ASEAN must come to conclude that, they cannot just allow themselves to be fooled by this same military again and again for the past few decades already. So in that case is, I'm glad to see that in the news, the Malaysian foreign minister started to speak up about, the Myanmar situation. And I think we need to see more of that. Singapore foreign minister spoke a little bit of here and there, but we need to see more of these ASEAN leaders, even as in their unilateral, voice that, is very important that they have to start speaking up. And this upcoming ASEAN Summit scheduled on October 28, 29. What our call is, ASEAN must not invite the military coup leader Min Aung Hlaing or anybody from military. They must not invite. If there are no progress, no seat. If the Myanmar military don't comply with their promise, no seat. So I think that's what we need the ASEAN to act at this point. We need all the ASEAN different human rights bodies like the AJAR and ACWC. They all need to speak up. I mean, basically, like I have said before, they have to say no to this military. And that's not like taking side or anything. It has nothing to do with taking side. It has to do with saving the people's life on the ground. And it has to do with, compliance to their own ASEAN charter. It's not about taking side of, whether it's NUG or the military junta. It's not that. It's just very simply about how they will abide by, follow and comply with their own promises that they have given to the ASEAN people, where the Myanmar people is one of those 10 countries people. And I think that is where we will be speaking and sharing our reflection and also the recommendations to the ASEAN. I think that, just my one last point is ASEAN really need to come to the conclusion that they don't allow themselves to get fooled again by this military, but also tell the UN and the international governments, they alone cannot do this. Let's just, have a more wider coalition and act decisively. And that's what we need. With that, I will end my sharing and update today. Thank you. Back to you, Leah.
Thank you very much. Ohmar, and I was very touched about your decision to highlight the situation of LGBTI and especially their exposure to sexual violence as in prison because of their gender identity. And I think this indeed is an issue that deserves much more attention than has been the case so far. And also what possibly can be done about this. Now, there are already 3 questions, so I will proceed with that. Like in the past, to avoid unfortunate appearance of people on the screen, the question are being sent directly to the host. In this case, Kun Bom is helping, and then I will give it to the speaker. So the first question is from Lisa, and I think relate to what you have been saying at the end of your speech. There seems to be more discussion among ASEAN countries about no longer engaging with the military. What are your thoughts on this? From Fabio, what is happening with COVID vaccine? Can you tell us more about whether the junta is still restricting access to vaccine as a mean to suppress opposition to the coup? And whatever also you can tell us about the vaccine would be a very interesting update for many of us who are interested in the health aspect of this situation. From Ria Tung, sorry about the spelling, I am not sure about how to spell it. What is your view on neighboring country? Are they supportive like India and Thailand? I come from Nagaland state of India, and many ethnic people have been crossing border in states like Mizoram, and even though India has denied accepting any refugee escaping war into this northeast region, in countries there are many pockets where I suppose they are doing so, they are accepting people. So what is your reflection on this neighboring country? Oh wait, there is more from Lisa. I am curious about your thoughts on the performance of the Myanmar independent media. So this is a 4th question. Yeah, I think this is already quite substantial question. So maybe you want to answer to those before we do a 2nd round.
Sure, thank you. Thanks for the question. So so as I was saying, yes, there are a lot more discussion in ASEAN on Myanmar, not to engage with the junta. I think it is time. I think it's even way too late, to be honest. Especially, we need the leaders to understand, that to understand who they are dealing with, and also their approach or the policy. It won't work. I mean it is, they should know better. They should know better. They are the one, they've been the one with these successive military juntas representatives in all of these meetings, and they know, and they do. So I think this is time also, because Myanmar situation is not internal. Not only because the Myanmar people, leaving the country, become refugees in neighboring countries, communicable diseases, as some people will be very worried. But it's not only that, right? It's not only about the migrant workers, but it's not only that. What about the whole regional grouping, regional community building? All of these flowery words that we've been using for the last 10 years, at least. Like community building, caring and sharing, all of these. Well, the thing is, all of these ASEAN vision that those leaders set out. Now the question is on them. Are they capable of implementing of their own vision, right? Are they capable of doing what they said that they will do for the regional development? Of course, there are a lot of flaws in their vision that we don't agree with, and we will argue and we will push for further, and we have been pushing further. But I think at least even in their own terms, until unless they deal with this military junta, until unless they get rid of this military junta from the ASEAN solution equation, they won't be able to move forward with what they have promised to the people, what they promised to themselves. It's such a shame. I mean, seriously, it is so shameful, right? So yes, this is the time. This is the time they have to be practical. They always talk about being pragmatic. So the question now I will pose to them is, why don't you be pragmatic with this military junta that for many decades that you've been fooled around? So yeah, I mean the first concrete, tangible action that we surely would like to see is with this upcoming summit, right? So this is the illegitimate regime. This is international criminals. So will they actually invite to shake hands in the formal annual summit? Well, here they have to make the decision. So we want to at least see them say no, and then make sure that they are not invited. So I will call out for the leadership from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore, and Thailand also, at least these 4 countries. I think that's what I want to see with the ASEAN. Coming to the let me link to the other neighboring countries. I'll come back to the COVID later. So my reflection with the neighboring countries, of course, unfortunately or fortunately, for now, we see that unfortunate that we are between China and India, and I got advice by somebody yesterday in the meeting that, kind of telling me that we should look up to India, since that, India and China are rivals. I'm like, yeah, as if like we have never done it. So in the past 30 years ago, yes, Indian government was a different entity, yeah, and they were very much up to their own, like the world largest democracy principles and all. So we were welcome, our democracy movement were welcome, given the space, given the voice, given that, it was. Now it's different, very different. Like you said, my colleague, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name yet. Like you said, our people are denied access to come across the border to India. Well, I mean, luckily, at least the Mizoram state governor, at least, still welcome. He made it public. And yes, of course, a lot more that India can do, being the largest democracy of the world. But that's not what we're seeing. And what we're seeing is also there are some reports of the Indian government, with the side, which I don't have much knowledge on it, so I cannot speak. But I'm reading, I'm hearing that, possibility of the arms dealing from the India arms support, but also there are a lot of the businesses, yeah. So I think it's very, really, really sad for us as a people of Myanmar to see that our country, yes, was perhaps full of rich of these natural resources, abundant, like we are like left as the last frontier. But I think it become a curse. It's a natural resource curse. It's because of these abundant natural resources. Everyone will look at us like, well, if China's getting this piece from your country, we want to get it too. And I'm making this sentence to you in the very literal way, right? But this is exactly what I was told by one of the European diplomats in the meeting. If China is the only one getting, we want it too. I'm like, seriously? Well, look at what happened in the last 10 years. That's exactly what happened. There was a gold rush manner. These like foreign countries, businesses rush in, and even now, and after the coup, we are focusing on the atrocities and the military's cruelty and military violence, right? But what I haven't even shared with you is that on one side, the military is stepping up with their business activities in the ethnic areas, in the conflict areas. The ethnic areas are most natural resource rich, yeah? So they are now going in with, like either to revive or start a new contract. There are many of these conflict related business, like natural resource exploitation, that our people are multiple suffering because of these activities. And that's the very reason we're calling for the cut of the financial flow to the military, the international companies to withdraw, and also to cut the financial ties, but also for the governments to impose the targeted sanctions. And that's the very reason that we're calling for it, no? So we can't really rely on China or India, unfortunately. And in fact, they defend the military, even in the UN, you see. So it's very, very frustrating. But one thing that they need to understand is this military is a group of power hunger people, will not last long. But it is the people of Myanmar who will be with Myanmar. And I think these countries, India and China leaders, they need to realize that not supporting the people, not taking side with the people of Myanmar will remember forever. And this is not going to be a good solution for the long-term neighboring countries. Of course, we can never run away from each other. We will always be there. But then, like, what do they want for the long term? I think that's something that they also need to be pragmatic, I would say. So that would be my question. Reflection on the neighboring countries. Coming to the COVID. So you asked whether the regime, the military, is still using weaponizing COVID to suppress the people. They still are. The vaccine, we don't see the vaccine. What do you call? There are vaccines, but the actual reaching out to the vulnerable populations or communities is not there. Especially, it's a part of their collective punishment scheme. So any areas where the defiance and resistance strong, they're not getting. And also the continued lack of trust still remain among the people. Even those who are able to reach the vaccine from the military don't want to get the vaccine from them. So yes, it's still a major problem. But what we continue to be advocating for is to work with the National Unity Government Task Force, also with the community-based organizations, ethnic health organizations, and in the ethnic control areas. And also there are independent charity and medical networks and civil society who are doing great work, but they have to be, like I said before, they have to be very quiet doing of that work, because they are risking not only their life with the COVID, but also with the arrest and attack from the military. So it's a very challenging situation. But that's where we are with the COVID. I mean, it's just like, that this military destroying the already very weak, vulnerable health system is a major problem. And now those doctors and nurses who have done CDM, of course, majority still remain as the CDM, but they are doing, as their own voluntary kind of supporting the people in their own way, no? So, yeah. But again, this is something, that's why I said, the ASEAN cannot risk further loss of life of Myanmar people on the ground when it comes to humanitarian and COVID, because again, the Delta variant was found in Myanmar, but then we don't know, right? We don't know what kind of other variants might be. Is also because no testing is being properly, able to manage, right? So yes. So that's that can be another should be another major serious concern for the ASEAN. You know, this military, what do you call, the military weaponizing the COVID is something, it should be of a serious concern to the ASEAN leaders for the sake of the rest of the region and the world. Yeah. Okay, the last one, media. The media.
There are two more, so
okay. Okay, so the media, we have, I think now, I think over 100. I don't have the final update of the media list in those who are in detention. I think over 100 in journalists and are in detention. Some are already sentenced to imprisonment of like 3 years. I think one was sentenced to 3 years, or another one's 10 years or 5 years. I forgot now. Sorry for my bad memory. So don't even take a note. But I know that a few of them are sentenced. There are many who are in the ethnic controlled liberated areas, and also some already made their way out of the country. So yeah, you will see like a Myanmar, DVB, Irrawaddy, Kidde, like they are reporting. I think, you know, it's just like a non-stop for them. And of course, Radio Free Asia and Voice of America and BBC, they continue to be also reporting, and there are smaller ethnic independent ethnic medias, like from the Kachin, from the Karen, you know, from the Chin, they are also reporting. But what I see now is there are more of this citizen journalists play a major role during the Spring Revolution. So those citizen journalists continue to be doing what they can, feeding up with the information, verification, you know, making connections to the media outlets. But also there are many online media outlets are already sprung up, already emerged. You know, the National Unity Government have their own media channels, but also there are other independent media channels that the activist communities or the civil society have already set up. But yeah, and one thing is that it's mostly in Burmese. Many of them are in Burmese, so it's a bit challenging for non-Burmese to follow those like regular updates and cases happening. But I just have to say that the media now, the previously exiled medias now come back to be exiled. Let's put it that way, yeah. And of course, you know, I'm glad to see them, you know, come back to be covering in more, you know, without how do I say it, without being like without reservation, I would say shy, you know, without being shy away from some of the issues that they don't seem to be that up to, you know, to doing or reporting in the past few years. Especially, I would say, under the National League for Democracy, Daw Aung San Suu Kyi leadership, there were a lot more media censorship, I would say. Not necessarily because the government did it, but it's also because, you know, like being Daw Aung San Suu Kyi there, you know, it's a bit, you know, like it's sort of like a self-censorship that people don't want to be critical to the military. I mean, to the civilian government, and, you know, under Aung San Suu Kyi's leadership. And I think, you know, just I think the time has passed, and of course the military's attempted coup speaks, you know, clearly for what they have to do now. Yeah. So yes, they are still independent, I would say, you know, but yeah.
I have to rush you a little bit because we
Sure.
still have to question from John Murray about Total and Chevron are doing business. I think this is related to the campaign. So Total and Chevron are doing business in Myanmar. What is an effect? Is there an effective venue for speaking out against these unethical business practices? Then from Kim Atkinson, does the NUG as a formal representative group in any of the ASEAN capitals so they could communicate with ASEAN, or it's mostly from Myanmar or from abroad, wherever they are. And related to that, also from John Smith, what is the status of the NUG outside of Myanmar? Are other governments making connection with them? We heard about the opening in Korea, but are there more government interacting with them? We have only 10 minutes, including the conclusion. So
sure, I'll be very quick then. Yes. So status of the NUG outside of Myanmar, there are more governments. Yes, there are more governments. I think, I mean, I cannot speak for them, no? But I think that there are more governments are engaging. But I think also, you know, like these governments, probably they will be careful how they communicate. So we don't really see much on the from the, you know, public information. But then there was an encouraging thing happened just a few days ago. The European Parliament adopted a resolution where they recognized the NUG as the legal government of the legitimate government of Myanmar, whereas they also recognized the committee representing People's Parliament, committee representing CRPH, which is the Union Parliament. So the European Parliament in their resolution also recognized CRPH as the legitimate parliament. So I think that's a very good sign. And the French Parliament is also on their way of coming up with a resolution, adopting a resolution to recognize the NUG as a legitimate government. I just hope that the other governments, more other governments will do, including the, you know, like the US and UK. But again, I cannot speak. I mean, like whether that can be progress sooner than later, if it will. But at least we know that these governments, including US, they, you know, like they meet with a an NUG delegation in, you know, like at the UN General Assembly, for example, you know. So it's just like that kind of actions also show us that these governments, you know, they may not have written as the NUG, you know, as them, they may not have a written policy statement, but their actions definitely show that they do recognize the NUG, you know, role, NUG's role. But I think what we need them is, we need them to do more to recognize officially, but also make sure that the military junta is not recognized or brought into any international fora that can be seen as the representative of Myanmar. And that includes the upcoming climate change meeting in November next month, where we heard that the military junta has been invited, which has really troubled the UN shouldn't do that. And yeah, so that's the question. Is there any NUG representative in ASEAN for you to communicate? I don't think so. I don't see yet. I mean, they have in Australia, in like Korea, and like in Europe and US, but I don't see that in ASEAN yet. But I just wanted to share with you that this is one of the recommendations that we have made to the NUG. So Total and Chevron. I'm not so sure I got your question clearly. Like, are you asking like what is an
effective venue? Is there an effective venue for speaking out against their being in Myanmar?
Please, I drop the links in the chat box, and I hope that the SEA Junction can also help post on your Facebook page after this session.
Yes, sure.
So you can connect to the Blood Money campaign. There are very strong campaign groups in US and also in France, because like Chevron being US, Total being French company. So there are long-term campaign groups, including like Global Witness, Authorize International. there are many of, and Justice for Myanmar. So these are the groups that I will make a list for you, and Leah can help me, Bom can help me post on from the SEA Junction page. You can connect them. These are the ones that where you can really join hands and also take the actions and speak out. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And you made it in less than 10 minutes. So very good. And indeed, this is the last time that, for now, that Ohmar will be with us. We have had the first round was with Aung Zaw of Irrawaddy, a journalist. Then the second round we have had Khin Ohmar, as I say, this, as you know, an activist, and much more than that. But we will continue with this bi-weekly. We will have another round of 6 events. We may continue with the same formula of 1 person for 6, or we may look for different person for different episodes with different teams. So this is, but for sure we will continue with the bi-weekly updates, because it's our belief that we need to keep the focus on Myanmar. Even if it is a small contribution, it is a contribution. Now, I have heard some people wanted to make donation. If the case, I think Khin Ohmar is from Progressive Voice. Although she has been talking here on a personal title, I think that Progressive Voice is doing a very important work in terms of activism and services and support. So that she doesn't know about this. I am doing this on my own initiative. It's not the request of Khin Ohmar, but I think it's a very good organization to donate to be sure that the money will reach people in Myanmar. With this, I thank you, all of you who have been following us, and please continue to follow us. We will announce soon who the next speaker and the modalities of update. And a very big thanks to Khin Ohmar, who is willing to still brainstorm with us and remain with us involved in the issue. So she will be with us. Actually, we have appointment tomorrow to brainstorm on this. So she will not abandon us.
I won't. Thanks, Leah and Bom SEA Junction. Thanks for again, thanks for providing this space, and thanks to all of you for also joining us. And yes, I just want to this is I think, yeah, at least for now, this is going to be my last speaking. So I would like to again call for your solidarity for the people of Myanmar. And please raise the voice for them directly to your government in particular, and also show your solidarity in many ways. Like, thanks Leah for this donation suggestion for the Progressive Voice. If you make the donation, we will make sure the donation reach to the people in need. And we can discuss, of course, depending on if you have any some people wants to only donate for the COVID prevention or the humanitarian aid, so health, education, or for those who are in hiding, so yeah, anything that you would like to make contribution, please do keep in touch. And my contacts, I can just write it here, if that's okay. So you can,
yes, and we will share it again.
Yeah, you can reach out to me anytime, really anytime. Our organization, Progressive Voice, we have a Facebook page. We're on Twitter, very active, and also on the we have a weekly update. We call the weekly highlight. You can subscribe it, so you can actually get the update also for your purpose of anything in relation to Myanmar. So with that, again, thank you very much. Thanks,
Thank
Leah.
you again, and yes, big
applause. Thanks, Lisa, for the
open your microphone. A big applause for Khin Ohmar, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Stay safe, everyone. Take care.
Bye.